Just I knew it was going to be a tougher game than what maybe people from the outside looking in, seeing their record, and their record is not, it's not indicative. Jeez, I can't talk right now. Not indicative. I guess that's the right word. You guys probably some of you guys being English majors, but 2-6. They weren't a 2-6 team. I mean, that's a team that was picked fourth in the Summit League. They'd played Kansas. They'd played Colorado. They had played Drake, who's like 5-0 or 6-0, who's a really good team. It'll probably be right there in the Missouri Valley. Creighton's a top 25 team. They lose to Austin Peay, who was picked to win the OVC. They lose to Abilene Christian, who's probably picked, second behind Stephen F. Austin in the Southland Conference. And so the hard part was not our guys. They see that Colorado beat them by 40. They see the record, and I try to tell these guys, listen, if you come in here sleepwalking, which I knew and I sensed even from the Utah Valley game that we were starting to get tired, especially the freshmen. You could just see it in just the way they kind of reacted to things. You can just see it when you're around these guys as much as we are, which is more than any time than ever. I mean, where you can't go out and recruit. And so we're in the gym with them all the time. We're around them all the time. I mean, we're on our own little bubble, and so you can see in their faces, and you can kind of when they're right and when they're not. And I knew it was just going to be one of those games where we were just going to have to find a way and just battle our way through, and give credit to our guys. I mean, we've been in a lot of close games. You take away the Mississippi Valley game, and we've been in pretty much 1 to 2 possession games going down the stretch, and to be 6-1 right now. With such a young team, I'm just proud of where we're at right now, and I think we got a lot of room to grow, and we need to grow in a hurry because the competition level will definitely pick up as we make our way into the Mountain West. Cats.
We just talked to Quan, and he said that the last 10 days for him have kind of been really important, and he said, he's been through a lot this semester in terms of, the contact tracing and kind of getting his wind back. And he really came up huge for you guys down the stretch with 14 second half points. What have you kind of seen from him in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is he took responsibility for where he was at, which is hard to do when you're 19, or in case of Quan, who turned 20 a couple days ago. It's hard to look in the mirror, and it's easy to point. It's easy to point fingers. It's easy to point blame. It's easy for people behind the scenes to tell you that you're not getting a fair shake. And especially coming off the Mountain West tournament that he had, there was a lot of expectations. But my thing with Quan, first and foremost, is I'm proud of him. He had a 3.0 GPA this semester. I mean, he's somebody that I really challenged academically along with the rest of our guys, but he really came through on that front. And then I think we had a heart-to-heart conversation after one of our last home games where, hey, I mean, this is what it's going to be, and if you want to take that next step as a player, you got to understand that there's a certain amount of commitment that's required, and he took it the right way, and he's really has done a lot more in the last 10 days, which is going to have to continue if he wants to continue to grow as a player. But I think for him just to look, to be able to look in the mirror and not to point fingers and say, hey, I have to be the one that takes responsibility for where I'm at right now. That's huge. And you could see, I mean, with his play tonight, I mean, I knew going into the game that he was going to be good. You could just see it. You could just see it in his face, and he made some big plays down in the second half for us. Tracy.
You get 7 games into the season, you've had 28 players score double figures, 3, 4, or 5 in every game. To see that kind of balance this quick from a lot of guys that hadn't been together before, does that encourage you at all offensively?
No, it's a good feeling when you can look over at the bench and you see some guys that can go out and get 20 points. There's a lot. I remember my first year at Northern Colorado, I'd look down at the bench and then I just look back and I'd be like, oh man. So for me to be able to look down and see a Drake Jeffries, to be able to see Quan Marble. I mean, and you look at, I mean, just in like a Drew Lamont whose back was bothering him, spazzed on him here at shoot around, so didn't play. We just had we have a lot of guys that can go and get 15 or 20 points, and it just takes a lot of pressure off the starting five, and it takes a lot of pressure off me as a coach. But that's also too why you recruit guys that can make shots. I mean, we always say we want guys that can make shots. There's a lot of guys that can take shots, but there's not a lot of guys that can make shots, and that's where hopefully we do a good job in recruiting to make sure that we find guys that can make shots. And I think our bench has played a big part. If you look at most of our wins, I mean, we've outscored the other team's bench by quite a bit. Davis.
Jeff, you mentioned the close wins. It seems like ever since Texas Southern, you guys have made the plays, despite it not always being pretty, to win. What does it say about this particularly young team that you guys are able to keep doing that?
I mean, I think it shows that they're a tight-knit group. Now we have to develop a little bit more collective grit and toughness. But when you have high-character kids, which we have, that truly enjoy each other and root for each other, that's what usually helps you out in games like that. Now you have to hope for the ball to bounce the right way and make timely shots and get timely stops. But we've made some really big shots. I mean, Hunter made another big three after not being able to make most of the game. But different guys have stepped up and made shots when they needed to. And then we've done a good job. And I think Maldo really helps in terms of just having been in a lot of games. Even during that last segment there, he's saying, hey, if they make a shot here when we were up 5 or 6, just let the ball go. I'm taking the ball out of bounds. To communicate that, knowing that, hey, if they come down and for some reason they make a 3 and now it's a one-possession game and now we panic and now we throw the ball in, we get a turnover. Well, now it's a different story. And so I think the older guys have done a good job. They need to continue to do a good job, and then the young guys need to continue to figure it out. But what they're going to realize here in a hurry is that the competition level is going to step up. And until you really face some of the teams that you're going to face in the Mountain West and some of the experience that you're going to face, it's hard to really tell them or get them ready for that. And so looking forward for the younger guys to see that and see how we respond. Cats.
Obviously, you and a lot of the coaching staff and most of the players on the team weren't here last year, but this is a program that didn't win its 6th game until February 1st, I think it was, last year. You guys are 6-1. Since you took over, have you seen the team mindset change? Was there a moment when the light kind of swithed on? I mean, what is different from when you first stepped on campus here?
Well, I mean, it's easy to say, but I mean, it's not that, it wasn't like Coach Edwards and his staff, I mean, didn't hold these guys accountable and didn't, develop habits in these guys. I mean, from a defensive standpoint, I mean, they did a lot of good things. And so it's easy to sit there and say, hey, I came in with this magic. No, I mean, you have to give credit to the people here in the past, and for whatever reason, maybe it didn't work out. But that doesn't mean that they weren't trying to do the right things. And I really truly believe that Coach Edwards was trying to do the right things. And luckily for me, I inherited 4 of his players that he recruited that bought into what we were trying to preach. We've had our moments. It's just like with everybody, but you need time to develop trust. I mean, that's the biggest thing. They didn't have to trust me, those returning guys. But as they see with our staff who's with them every day and just see the effort that they bring every day, my staff does, whether that's in the office, whether that's on the court, I think these guys truly know that, we really care about them, not just, as players and whether they're making shots. And that's a big reason, too, why we're letting them go home. I mean, some coaches would probably say, hey, we're not going to let these guys go home for a few days knowing that we're not playing, that, hey, they're going to get out of shape and we can't have that long of a rest. But, I mean, it's been a long haul. I mean, it's been a long year thus far, and it's only going to continue to be that. And I think for us right now, I mean, I think it's perfect time for our guys to get home for a week and then come back. And then we got enough time to get ready for Fresno State. But that's just what the year is. I mean, it's like living in the twilight zone. You just got to fight your way through it and figure it out. Davis.
Jeff, Omaha ran its offense almost exclusively through its 2 bigs tonight, 54 points in the paint. How much of a concern is your interior defense and just the defense, I guess, overall?
I mean, it's once again, I mean, Big Boy, last time I checked, Big Boy from Utah Valley had like 29 and 20, and we won. I mean, those guys had whatever they had, but they also made 3 threes, and we knew from an offensive standpoint that we were probably going to be able to score more points. I mean, we're not going to be San Diego State right now defensively. That's just not who we are. That's not what we're going to be. And I could sit there and try to beat that into them, but you know what? We're going to have to be a little bit different right now. I mean, based off our practice time, based off our youth and inexperience, we got to do certain things that are going to allow us to win the game. And sometimes you got to give up some things in order to take away some things. And that's where we've thought in the last couple of games where those post guys, they went and got theirs, but at the same time we we limited their threes. And it's hard. And if we had that stretch there where we got up, I think 10 in the second half. We got to continue to put some stops together, but it's hard. Like I've been playing this defense for 4 or 5 years. I'll let a post player go get 30 any day of the week and twice on Sunday, but when you're only making 3 threes, man, it puts a lot of pressure to make a lot of twos, and that's what we needed to. That's what we needed to do. That was what the game plan. The guys execute the game plan. Now there's going to be some other games where that might change. Now when you add Graham Ike back to the mix here in a couple weeks, which he'll have to take a little while to get his feet underneath him, but that's a difference maker inside, not just from an offensive standpoint, from a defensive standpoint. And so really looking forward for him to get cleared here after the new year and just give us another, especially a big physical body that just, he's not going to get knocked off balance. And that's the thing that Hunter struggles with is that he's a guy that just struggles to get his feet outside his hips. He's a guy that struggles to get that wide base, but Hunter's battling. Hunter's trying to do everything we tell him to, and beyond, Hunter's made some big shots, even though he hasn't made a lot of shots here lately, but he's made big shots. And so as long as he continues to do that, continues to work hard, we'll let the chips fall where they may. Tracy.
How big a difference has the 4 guys that you were able to keep, the local guys that you kept, been to make everybody else kind of fit together better and understand the different world they're in now?
I think I think they've done a good job in terms of just, I think in practice, making sure that our discipline and effort is at a certain level. And that's hard. I mean, and it's hard for those young guys. They're not used to having 5 coaches, the eye in the sky, the video, basically critiquing them every single thing they do on the court. And, we don't let anything slide. And I think that's the biggest thing is just being held accountable at such a high level. And, in the case of, Maldo, who's elite defensively and is a guy that doesn't make a lot of mistakes, for them to kind of see him. And then those other guys, especially Kenny and Quan, it's not like Kenny or Quan, it's not like both those guys, they're both sophomores. Quan, he didn't play very many games. Played a few, down the stretch, but, he's still less than 20 games into his college season. And so it's just a matter of just continuing to grow. And I said we got really good kids that say the right things and do the right things. And if you have that as a coach, that's all you can ask for. And you'll get better if that's the case. And so just looking forward to seeing us grow as the season goes on, however long it may last. Davis.
Well, Jeff, what will you guys' schedule look like, I guess, over the next 14, 15 days? When do you guys leave? When will you guys come back?
Yeah, most of our guys they'll be leaving tomorrow. Owen, he's obviously not going to travel across the pond and head over to Ireland, and so he'll spend the time here in Laramie, which will be good since as a coaching staff, none of us will be leaving. Jimmy, our strength coach, won't be, so he's going to get some time to some individual work in and hopefully continue to get better. And so most of the guys will get home, and then once they get back on the 26th, we'll be basically, we'll be getting tested about every single day, and we'll be limited in terms of what we can do. We'll be able to do some stuff from an individual standpoint, but until we kind of clear a certain benchmark, we won't be able to do a lot of 5-on 0, 5-on-5, or any really kind of live practice stuff. So we won't really get to a real practice situation until probably December 30th, 31st, and then hopefully get a couple practice in before we head to Fresno. But who knows? As we've all learned, you only take one day at a time with this deal, and just hope that we can get to a point where we can play enough games.
Hey, you guys good?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Happy holidays.
I got one more, Jeff.
Davis, yep.
I was just going to ask, what do you feel really good about going into conference play? What's maybe your biggest concern right
I think my biggest thing is just versatility. I mean, I like our versatility. I mean, I think we can score the ball in a lot of different ways. I think we're going to be hard to guard, but at the same time, we got to make sure that we got to continue to improve defensively. I mean, it's not good enough, but we might, going back and having some time off. I mean, we might adjust a few things here and there, but like I said, if you'd have told me we'd be 6-1, after in September, October. I mean, I would probably, and I say I'd love to be 7-0, but to be 6-1, it's a lot better than being 5-2 or 4-3.